So this came up in Tuesday's class when we were working on Senshin, Nage, and we were talking about how, you know, in the previous class with you that we were working on this skill, so it has to be in here somewhere. Well, okay, so at the end of class, Jonathan was asking Andrew that he's feeling it in his shoulder when someone is able to be projectable in that bottom hand and he's trying to project out.
In this technique or the Ura?
In the Ura version,
okay.
More when we're going full yang into it. And he was asking, you know, what is he doing wrong? And so we were brainstorming.
Meaning he wasn't?
Well, he was feeling it in his shoulder. He didn't feel like he was greasing the groove. He felt like he was being compromised somewhere. And so we were talking about, well, maybe we don't have the right structure, maybe we're not rolling forward, but we couldn't really figure out what really was the root of that.
So let's just standardize a little bit. The Ura version of that technique is on the hip. So you're not pushing through the arm like we are today.
Right.
And so there's not this movement. So were you doing this movement? Because a lot of you do try to twist the arm over, which is, in my opinion, is a different space-time. You need to be in a different place to cause the rotation between the shoulder mechanism and the head.
Right.
The one that we were doing for Ura is the rotation is occurring between the head and the hip.
Right.
So when it's between the head and the hip, there is no really inner deltoid, there's no deltoid action at all. It's really, it might be a pec, right? And then they're waiting for you, or you're waiting for uke, and so uke is already fallen when you give that last thing over there. So I guess anytime that you feel a muscle strain, you want to look at it. Of course, and I think that's what you're trying to do here in terms of a muscle isolation.
Right.
So meaning you don't have the proper organization in your body for the art, right. And that can lead to that. But you also want to make sure that you don't have these other things, which are you've misunderstood two versions, and so you don't understand which structure is actually being utilized here. So if I'm going to check a structural consideration, I have to make sure that I understand what the structure requirement is. Okay, and then of course always, if you are having some sort of muscle bite and a muscle biting, that muscle isolation could very much be produced in a beginner to intermediate Aikidoka because there's a great deal of weight on it, and so the temptation to push on it is now being more encouraged, and so they will less likely hold structure. They will start deconstructing their body and start focusing on whatever they can push with, and that might be your biceps and your deltoids most of the time. So yes, okay, check if the resistance can be lessened. Do you see? And so I could see somebody not finding the hip, going to the arm in this version when they should not be, because they're trying to hurry up and throw them because they are in front of them and they're trying to pull them to be so that they're behind them. Do you understand?
Right.
So we kind of worked on that the remainder of the week. So the uke is over to my, let's say I'm throwing to my left, and they're way to my right, and you start going, and now, oh yeah, you look at, you're doing that. Whereas if you just wait, kind of like today's class, they're going to get in front of you, you just have to be patient, and then it's really just a
Right.
love tap on the hip.
Right.
So you want to look at all of those kind of things. Really, you know, everything is, those kind of questions are going to be answerable through a kinesiological analysis, and then also through an architectural analysis, just like, you know, straight, what is the angle you're using, what is the resistance you're using, where's your fulcrum, where's your, how long your lever, all that kind of stuff. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead. That's right.
So would that also, all of that hold true, now that I realize that it was a Tenshi Nage with the Sumiyoto charm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
On my last rep, when I was working with Ishani, she wasn't coming in as much as I was trying to go around the arm. And I realized I was moving a lot farther away than the situation demanded, leading me to understand that I already had a preconceived template that I was going to operate under, and when she didn't fit into that, it kind of screwed me up. What I was trying to figure out, though, was in a situation like that, because I noticed you didn't have that problem with Tristan, or any other uke that didn't come in, when you're trying to not disengage from the contact, is it acceptable to just move forward if necessary?
It could be. The problem isn't whether you move forward or backward, right? The problem is, are you matching, right, the void to are you matching the yin to the yang? That's the problem. And then the underlying problem to that is, you know, the question of mismatching. That the underlying problem to mismatching is, are you stuck on yourself? Are you just going to do whatever you do? I always step back 2 feet every time, no matter who comes in, no matter how fast they come in. I always just do this. Or the problem might be, are you rejecting what they're doing? And so you're trying to prevent them from what they're doing. It's all a kind of non-acceptance, right? And so this is where, you know, Zen and Budo and the formation of Budo, that's where it happens, because you can sit here and I might be able to, in a coaching kind of way, once you give me a particular uke, I can, you know, paint out for you a diagram. Can you tell me to be quiet, please? A diagram on where your foot should go, at what time, and at what distance. But then I'm only correcting you for that particular range of options that uke does. You will not be able to take that diagram and move it over to a bigger or a larger or a heavier or even a lighter or a less skilled or a more afraid uke. It doesn't happen. So when the martial artists, you know, somebody a long time ago realized, hey, this is not really an architectural problem. This is a mind problem. This is a being problem. It's a spirit problem. It's beyond the gross lessons of, you know, angles and fulcrums and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I can tell you all day, you know, where to move and stuff. Can you have him wait, please? But you won't get it until you are able to address this other aspect of yourself. How am I getting in the way of this? Okay, so in the training here at the dojo, we set the task for you. We've given you what is basically, in a way, a kind of physical or moving koan, in the sense that any kind of intellectual rationalization is going to ultimately fail, because you will not be able to take that to the next person. Do you understand? And so, well, then what does succeed? I have to feel it. It's the best way that we describe it. It's not perfect. You're not, if you know, the English word to feel, the verb to feel, it captures many things, but it's the best way that we have of expressing this. It's not anti-intellectual, but it's not solved intellectually. Okay, so you know, in our romance movies, or maybe in our own romances, right? You'll have in your head, and you'll go, yeah, but, you know, but hey, he doesn't even own a car, and he lives in his mom's basement, and he's just trying to be a YouTube star by playing video games, and everything in your head is telling you, hey, drop that loser. But your heart is telling you, but he's really kind, he's really caring, there's a nurturing to him, and I'm just drawn to it. Do you see? And so when you go back now and you look at that intellectually, is it really intellectually invalid to be drawn to somebody who is caring and nurturing and sweet? Is it really intellectually valid to be drawn to someone who has a car, lives in the penthouse, you know, but is an asshole? Is that really? No. So it's not that feeling is anti-intellectual or irrational. It's just a different mode of knowing, hence we say good knowing, right? It's just a different mode of relating to it, to the world, to our environment, to the situations we find ourselves in. But we have to think of feeling as different from my feelings, my emotions. It's really another form of sensory input that does capture my emotions, like sadness, happiness, and things like that. But also pressure. I feel pressure, right? There's a pressure, and if I have to go ahead and calculate it, to go, there's the pressure. By the time you finish that thought, it's more than what you are calculating. Do you see? So I have to establish this immediacy when I'm trying to match, for example, here, these yin to yang, this void to force. Relationships, it has to be established not only harmoniously, but simultaneously. And you cannot do that at an intellectual level. Do you understand? You can only do it at what we described as at a feeling level. You can think of it as, if you want, that the intellect, you know, maybe the intellect travels at the speed of light, and maybe this, what we're calling feelings, is able to travel at, I don't know, warp beyond 10. Something Data made up, right? Do you remember your Star Trek? So it goes even faster, okay? And I would agree, there is a sense that it is able to travel faster. It does seem more immediate. Okay, what do I do? What's getting in the way of my training and capitalizing upon the drills? Well, again, do not prioritize the outside external things. So do not prioritize kaiten nage. I'm going to do, we're doing kaiten nage, you think, as you're watching, right? Oh, we're doing kaiten nage. Then what happens? You go into your kaiten nage. You see, and your kaiten nage always has a step of 2 to 4 feet, and so you're not here to match. Do you understand? And that becomes more problematic when the drill itself isn't really quite a Kihon Waza. It really is just a yin and yang, in-yo matching exercise. Do you understand? So as I'm watching the class, I am not going to do kaiten nage. I don't even think about kaiten nage. I just think, okay, how do I not let that force push on my arm at the grip? How do I not let their kazushi push on my center at the shikaku? Do you get that? I'm basically, the closest you can get to it, unfortunately, or fortunately, is it's like dance. I just dance with the person. Again, this is a lost concept because everyone dances by numbers nowadays and not by feeling or touch. And which is why you see videos where you can change the music. It doesn't matter what the music is, and why you go to dance studios all over the world and they're actually dancing without music, because you don't need the music. They have a count and they match a count, but it's not a feeling kind of thing. It's really gross to me. Can you task Mary Jean with that? So that would be my first step. Don't do the technique you think we're doing. Stay in the moment. Make it more like a dance. They're pushing on you, right? Don't sit there and go. I saw a lot of you guys doing this next thing. So the next thing I wouldn't do is don't try to transfer or predetermine your architectural schemata. Don't do that. So you would go, oh, it's a person without a hakama. They're not going to come in. So then I won't go as far back. How is that any more right than the other, that you're pulling the person with the hakama? You're not matching. Do you see? You're not in the moment. You're not in the present. You're trying to rationalize through this, and so you don't develop the skill of what we call musubi or sensitivity, and with that comes, right, a whole lot of other problems. For example, when we went to the ballistic, which wasn't very ballistic, but can you imagine if we made that a very fast punch? You're not going to get anywhere with that. So even with the slow push, we were having problems, having them fall into the void, right? Or and that would become amplified the further and further you get away from the finger hooks that we end up using, which is nothing more than I'm not matching yin to yang. And so same thing, when you predetermine your course of action because you look and you guess what their Ukemi skill is going to be, that too is as wrong as saying at the onset, oh, it's Kaiten Nage, I'm going to do Kaiten Nage. It's wrong because it's not in the present. Do you guys understand that? And it not being in the present, and I'm not going to gain these musubi and sensitivity skills, I'm not going to be very martial in the end. I won't be very martial because we already said that there's a kind of speed or a kind of more practical velocity to this sensitivity over intellectualizing. Do you see? So in essence, you've made yourself slower when you're trying to do this mapping, these pre-mapping, so to speak, in your architectures. And so, I guess it'll work if they're really slow. And that goes back to that old problem. Your Aikido shouldn't be only functionable or functioning on slower, weaker people. Okay? So that's how I would approach this. And, especially like today's class, man, give yourself some freedom to experiment. Okay? I watch a lot of you start going and you're pulling them and you start going like, oh, like someone else is pulling them. Do you know what I mean? You're like, you're pulling them, you keep pulling them, you can tell you're pulling them, and you start rejecting, oh man, I can't believe I'm pulling them. Hey, when you feel that you're now pulling them, stop, and try one of the many other angles, right? This is a very strange concept when you think about it. It really does look like it's so. I always feel like going, hey, can I talk to the person who's doing the pulling, because it's not you. You can see the mistake like I can. But you guys keep doing it. So you're going to go like, oh, okay, do you know this is not it, right? If I'm going from 12 to 6, and I can start to feel a lot of tension as I'm moving towards 6 o'clock, hey, stop going towards 6 o'clock. Try one of the other angles. Start with the cardinal directions. Go to 3. Try it. Who cares, right? That's what I mean. Experiment. Go to 3. Okay, 3, there was still a little bit of pull. All right, go to 2:30. Okay, maybe I go ahead in my experiment. Hey, let's start again. and let me see if I was too late, or let me see if I'm too early, right? Let me start connecting a little bit more with you ahead of time. Really, for these kind of classes like this, where we're really just trying to develop the sensitivity and not any kind of class curriculum or dojo curriculum, which we have nothing to do with, right? We don't test in it. We don't give a shit about that. We want the skills. So this is obviously a class that we've done before. We've done the related Kihon before this week. This is clearly an experimental class. So give yourself the freedom to experiment. Stop making the same mistakes, and more importantly, stop yourself in the midst of making a mistake you clearly know you are. Give yourself the room to go, I'm going to go this way, or I'm going to go that way, or I'm going to go that way, and see what I start feeling, okay? Was there something else? Yes?
I was just wanting to know what we would name this.
Yeah, who cares? I don't know what you name it. Yeah, I mean, you could go, it's Kaiten Nage, right? But, you know, part of me wants to go and call it In-Yo-Ho. But I'm sure there's some Japanese expert and some Koryu, you know, museum archivist who's going to go, yeah, they're going to have a cow. But if you have Kokyu Ho, it's a drill to develop Kokyu Ho. That's what Ho means. And so In-Yo, Yin-Yang, and I'm doing In-Yo Ho, right? But do we have to name it? Am I better now when I captured the name, you know? I don't know. It's also the way, like, I'm terrible. I don't work with names. I don't work with faces either. So you'd be surprised at like how many times I might not remember your name, because that's not you. So the name of this technique is not that either, right? It happens to me at work all the time. Like, I'll, you know, first I should know, they'll go, you know me, and I'm like, I don't know. And then they'll say or do something, and I go, hey, it's you, right? And so that's, to me, give yourself the same thing. Give yourself freedom to don't get stuck on the names. Okay, every technique is really in your whole. Every single technique is that. Okay. Just like every single technique is kokyu-ho. Every single technique is some sort of exercise meant to cultivate some martial skill or attribute that you could then go on to use tactically. Not directly, but in other things, right? So there's going to be an energy to somebody who's drawing a weapon on you. Right, it's either going to be yin or yang kind of thing, and so you're going to match that, and it doesn't matter, which is why we have weapons too. A lot of people might go, I can't believe you guys are working with firearms. I can't. Did you see the anime that I oh my god, that was like I drew it or something. I mean, it was so funny, right? The anime is this big, huge kind of, you know, jujitsu guys are gonna attack this guy, and the guy pulls out like I don't know what that was, like a less lethal shotgun, boom, boom, and shoots the character, and then the guy falls down, and even shoots him a couple times on the ground. I was just too funny, right? So, but even in modern fighting, you're not looking for a 1-to-1 ratio between your cultivation drills or your exercises for skill development and your applications. There might be pieces here or there, but they're just a coincidence of these other skills like in-yo matching, or musubi, or kokyu-ryoku, right? It's not a 1-to-1. Just like bench pressing is going to make you stronger. Being stronger is better in a fight than not being stronger. Okay? Hey, but you know what? Don't sit there and tell the attacker, hey, get on me, get on my chest, and I'm going to bench press you. Do you understand? So in the same way, as ludicrous as that idea would be, you got to watch your 1-to-1. And so when I don't have a 1-to-1, I drop that idea, then the names don't become important at all. And they might actually get in the way. Thank each other, please.